I stood at my parents' doorstep in Naperville, clutching a gift wrapped in silver paper and a homemade apple pie, the scent of cinnamon still warm in my hands. Snowflakes danced in the glow of Christmas lights, and for a moment, I let myself believe this year would be different. My heart thumped with fragile hope, picturing laughter, clinking glasses, and maybe, just maybe, a seat at the family table where I'd finally belong. I'm Emily, 35, a Chicago architect who's built skyscrapers but never quite built a bridge to my family's heart. For years, I'd been the invisible middle child, overshadowed by my brother Nathan, the golden son who could do no wrong. But nothing prepared me for what happened inside that house, a moment that shattered every illusion I'd clung to. The door swung open, and the smell of roast turkey hit me, mixed with the faint hum of carols. I stepped in, my forest green dress catching the light, feeling like the best version of myself. But within hours, I was back in my car, tears streaming down my face, the pie untouched beside me. My brother Nathan's voice echoed in my head, his smirk cutting deeper than any knife. "Why would we waste a seat on you?" Those words weren't just cruel, they were the final straw. They thought they could push me out, humiliate me in front of everyone, and I'd just take it, like always. But they were wrong. This Christmas, I wasn't going to stay silent. I was done swallowing their poison. I was ready to make them face the truth, a truth I'd buried for years. Before I tell you what happened next, I need you to do something. Drop a comment below, tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever felt pushed out by the people who should love you most? Hit that like button if you know what it's like to fight for a place in your own family. And if you've ever had to stand up to someone who tried to break you, subscribe, because this story is for you. I want you to feel what I felt, to know the weight of being told you don't belong, and the fire that comes when you decide you've had enough. Nathan's always been the star of the Carter family show. Growing up, I watched my parents, James and Linda, hang on his every word, while my sister Sophie, the baby, got endless praise. Me? I was the shadow, the one they barely noticed. From the time I was 6, Nathan made sure I knew my place, wrecking my dreams, stealing my moments, and turning my family against me with lies so smooth no one questioned them. But that night, as I sat in my car, staring at the house I grew up in, something shifted. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. I was ready. Under Nathan's plate, I'd slipped something he'd never expect, something that would unravel his perfect mask. This isn't just about one Christmas dinner gone wrong. It's about years of being erased, of fighting for scraps of love from people who should have given it freely. It's about finding the strength to say no more. Stick with me, because what happened next changed everything, not just for me, but for the family who thought they could keep me in the dark forever. I'm Emily Carter, 35, standing on the edge of my family's world, hoping this Christmas might finally let me in. I'm an architect in Chicago, designing buildings that touch the sky, living in a sleek apartment overlooking Lincoln Park, where the city's pulse hums beneath my windows. My life looks polished on the outside, promotions, magazine features, a career I fought tooth and nail for. But behind the glass, there's a wound that never quite heals, my family. They've never seen me, not really. And at the center of that blindness is my older brother, Nathan, the golden child who spent his life making sure I stay invisible. Growing up in Naperville, our suburban house was picture perfect, white picket fence, manicured lawn, the kind of place you'd see on a holiday card. But inside, it was a different story. My parents, James and Linda, had a hierarchy carved in stone. Nathan, 3 years older, was their pride and joy, the son who could do no wrong. Sophie, my younger sister, was the adored baby, showered with affection. And me? I was the middle child, the one who faded into the background, my voice drowned out by Nathan's charisma and Sophie's charm. I learned early that love in our family came with conditions, and I never met them. My earliest memory of Nathan's cruelty is seared into me. I was 6, pouring my heart into an art project for the school fair, a miniature model of our neighborhood, tiny houses crafted with care, paper trees glued just so. I stayed up late, my small hands trembling with pride. The night before the fair, I woke to find it destroyed, torn to pieces on my bedroom floor. Nathan stood there, shaking his head, spinning a lie to our parents. Emily got mad because it wasn't good enough. I tried to help, but she pushed me away. I sobbed, begging them to believe me, but they didn't. They never did. Dad spent that night in the garage, building Nathan's project, while I showed up to the fair empty-handed, watching my brother take first place with a smile that wasn't his. That wasn't a one-time betrayal, it was the blueprint for our childhood. In middle school, I made the honor roll, clutching my certificate like a lifeline. Nathan told our parents I'd cheated, and they questioned me for hours, their doubt heavier than any punishment. In high school, I was invited to prom by a boy I'd liked forever. Nathan whispered to him that I was chasing someone else, and my date canceled days before. I went alone, hiding in the bathroom while couples danced. Even in college, my escape, Nathan's shadow followed. I brought home my first serious boyfriend, hoping to share something real. Nathan spent the weekend spinning humiliating stories, half-truths, outright lies, until my boyfriend left me, saying I wasn't who he thought. After college, I built a life I was proud of. I landed a job at a top architectural firm, designing sustainable buildings that earned praise. I bought my apartment, a sanctuary with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the park's emerald sprawl. Last year, I became the youngest senior architect in my firm's history, my name in magazines for innovative designs. But at family gatherings, my victories were footnotes. If I mentioned a promotion, Nathan interrupted with a bigger real estate deal. If I shared a project, he changed the subject to his latest investment property. My parents nodded along, their eyes on him, while Sophie's wedding plans or Nathan's golf game dominated every conversation. One wound cuts deeper than the rest. My cousin Claire, once my closest confidant, wears a pearl necklace that should have been mine. Our grandmother, Evelyn, promised it to me, a family heirloom, carried from Ireland during the famine, its delicate clasp holding stories of survival. She told me I'd inherit it, her eyes warm with trust. When she passed 5 years ago, I went to her room to claim it, only to find it gone. Later, I saw it around Claire's neck. She claimed Evelyn gave it to her privately, a lie I knew in my bones. When I confronted her, my family dismissed me. Mom said I was confused by grief, Dad told me not to make a scene. Every holiday since, Claire's worn that necklace, a glittering reminder of how little my truth matters to them. Last Thanksgiving was the breaking point. I shared my promotion, my heart swelling with pride, but the table stayed silent. Mom asked Nathan about his vacation home, and the meal moved on without me. That night, I started therapy with Dr. Ellis, a specialist in family trauma. She helped me see the patterns, manipulation, gaslighting, a family rigged against me. She urged me to set boundaries, maybe even skip family events, but I wasn't ready to give up. They're still my family, I told her, clinging to hope. If I can make them see me, things could change. Dr. Ellis's eyes were kind but skeptical. Sometimes, she said, the family you choose matters more than the one you're born into. So, I decided to try one last time. This Christmas, I poured my heart into gifts, a handwoven scarf for Mom, a rare mystery novel for Dad, a custom album for Sophie's wedding memories. For Nathan, I prepared something different, a bound collection of evidence I'd gathered over years. Emails where he undermined me to relatives. Screenshots of texts where he bragged about turning our parents against me. A recording from last Thanksgiving, his voice smug, it's so easy to make them hate her. And a note, my final plea for them to see the truth. I debated bringing it, knowing confrontation might not change them. But I needed to try, to stand up for myself before I walked away for good. As I drove to my parents' house, the Chicago skyline fading into the snowy suburbs, my stomach churned with nerves. I rehearsed what I'd say if Nathan started his games, how I'd stay calm, how I'd show them the Emily I'd become, strong, successful, worthy. The house came into view, twinkling with lights, a wreath on the door, 2 perfect Christmas trees at the entrance. I checked my reflection, my auburn hair in loose waves, my green dress hugging my frame. I looked like someone who belonged. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was walking into a battlefield, armed with hope and a secret that could change everything. I'm Emily Carter, 35, standing on the edge of my family's world, hoping this Christmas might finally let me in. I'm an architect in Chicago, designing buildings that touch the sky, living in a sleek apartment overlooking Lincoln Park, where the city's pulse hums beneath my windows. My life looks polished on the outside: promotions, magazine features, a career I fought tooth and nail for. But behind the glass, there's a wound that never quite heals: my family. They've never seen me, not really. And at the center of that blindness is my older brother, Nathan, the golden child who spent his life making sure I stay invisible. Growing up in Naperville, our suburban house was picture perfect: white picket fence, manicured lawn, the kind of place you'd see on a holiday card. But inside, it was a different story. My parents, James and Linda, had a hierarchy carved in stone. Nathan, 3 years older, was their pride and joy, the son who could do no wrong. Sophie, my younger sister, was the adored baby, showered with affection. And me? I was the middle child, the one who faded into the background, my voice drowned out by Nathan's charisma and Sophie's charm. I learned early that love in our family came with conditions, and I never met them. My earliest memory of Nathan's cruelty is seared into me. I was 6, pouring my heart into an art project for the school fair, a miniature model of our neighborhood, tiny houses crafted with care, paper trees glued just so. I stayed up late, my small hands trembling with pride. The night before the fair, I woke to find it destroyed, torn to pieces on my bedroom floor. Nathan stood there, shaking his head, spinning a lie to our parents: Emily got mad because it wasn't good enough. I tried to help, but she pushed me away. I sobbed, begging them to believe me, but they didn't. They never did. Dad spent that night in the garage, building Nathan's project, while I showed up to the fair empty-handed, watching my brother take first place with a smile that wasn't his. That wasn't a one-time betrayal, it was the blueprint for our childhood. In middle school, I made the honor roll, clutching my certificate like a lifeline. Nathan told our parents I'd cheated, and they questioned me for hours, their doubt heavier than any punishment. In high school, I was invited to prom by a boy I'd liked forever. Nathan whispered to him that I was chasing someone else, and my date canceled days before. I went alone, hiding in the bathroom while couples danced. Even in college, my escape, Nathan's shadow followed. I brought home my first serious boyfriend, hoping to share something real. Nathan spent the weekend spinning humiliating stories, half-truths, outright lies, until my boyfriend left me, saying I wasn't who he thought. After college, I built a life I was proud of. I landed a job at a top architectural firm, designing sustainable buildings that earned praise. I bought my apartment, a sanctuary with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the park's emerald sprawl. Last year, I became the youngest senior architect in my firm's history, my name in magazines for innovative designs. But at family gatherings, my victories were footnotes. If I mentioned a promotion, Nathan interrupted with a bigger real estate deal. If I shared a project, he changed the subject to his latest investment property. My parents nodded along, their eyes on him, while Sophie's wedding plans or Nathan's golf game dominated every conversation. One wound cuts deeper than the rest. My cousin Claire, once my closest confidant, wears a pearl necklace that should have been mine. Our grandmother, Evelyn, promised it to me, a family heirloom, carried from Ireland during the famine, its delicate clasp holding stories of survival. She told me I'd inherit it, her eyes warm with trust. When she passed 5 years ago, I went to her room to claim it, only to find it gone. Later, I saw it around Claire's neck. She claimed Evelyn gave it to her privately, a lie I knew in my bones. When I confronted her, my family dismissed me. Mom said I was confused by grief, Dad told me not to make a scene. Every holiday since, Claire's worn that necklace, a glittering reminder of how little my truth matters to them. Last Thanksgiving was the breaking point. I shared my promotion, my heart swelling with pride, but the table stayed silent. Mom asked Nathan about his vacation home, and the meal moved on without me. That night, I started therapy with Dr. Ellis, a specialist in family trauma. She helped me see the patterns: manipulation, gaslighting, a family rigged against me. She urged me to set boundaries, maybe even skip family events, but I wasn't ready to give up. "They're still my family," I told her, clinging to hope. "If I can make them see me, things could change." Dr. Ellis's eyes were kind but skeptical. "Sometimes," she said, "the family you choose matters more than the one you're born into." So, I decided to try one last time. This Christmas, I poured my heart into gifts: a handwoven scarf for Mom, a rare mystery novel for Dad, a custom album for Sophie's wedding memories. For Nathan, I prepared something different: a bound collection of evidence I'd gathered over years. Emails where he undermined me to relatives. Screenshots of texts where he bragged about turning our parents against me. A recording from last Thanksgiving, his voice smug: "It's so easy to make them hate her." And a note, my final plea for them to see the truth. I debated bringing it, knowing confrontation might not change them. But I needed to try, to stand up for myself before I walked away for good. As I drove to my parents' house, the Chicago skyline fading into the snowy suburbs, my stomach churned with nerves. I rehearsed what I'd say if Nathan started his games, how I'd stay calm, how I'd show them the Emily I'd become: strong, successful, worthy. The house came into view, twinkling with lights, a wreath on the door, 2 perfect Christmas trees at the entrance. I checked my reflection, my auburn hair in loose waves, my green dress hugging my frame. I looked like someone who belonged. But deep down, I knew the truth: I was walking into a battlefield, armed with hope and a secret that could change everything. I stood in the doorway of my parents' dining room, the weight of years pressing against my chest. The table gleamed with Christmas perfection: red candles flickering, holly-trimmed china, napkins folded into delicate trees. My family sat in their assigned places, laughing, clinking glasses, as if I didn't exist. No chair for me. No place card with my name. Just my mother's voice, light and cold: "Emily, you can eat in the car. It's just for today." And then Nathan, my brother, his smirk slicing through the silence: "Why would we waste a seat on you?" The words landed like a fist, but this time, I didn't flinch. I wasn't the little girl who'd cry herself to sleep after his lies. I was done being invisible. Under his plate, I'd hidden something, a truth he couldn't bury. This was my moment, and I was ready to turn their world upside down. The room felt smaller, the air thick with tension. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady as I stepped forward, every eye on me. I'd spent my life shrinking, swallowing their dismissal, but not tonight. I walked to the Christmas tree, its lights casting soft shadows, and picked up Nathan's gift, a silver box tied with a blue ribbon, elegant and unassuming. The family watched, forks paused midair, conversations dying. I crossed the room, my heels clicking on the hardwood, and stood behind Nathan's chair. For once, he had to look up at me. His usual confidence faltered, a flicker of unease in his blue eyes. I felt a surge of power, not from anger, but from clarity. This wasn't just about exposing him. It was about reclaiming myself. "Nathan," I said, my voice calm, cutting through the silence like a blade. "I brought you something special this Christmas." I set the box beside his plate, the ribbon catching the chandelier's glow. He stared at it, wary, like it might bite. "What is this?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Open it," I replied. "Or don't. But check under your plate first." His face tightened, a muscle twitching in his jaw. The table was a frozen tableau: my parents, Sophie, Claire, their partners, all waiting. Nathan's hand hovered over his plate, hesitating. He knew something was wrong. He'd always controlled the narrative, but not this time. "Emily, you're disrupting dinner," my father, James, snapped, his voice heavy with irritation. "Disrupting dinner?" I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping me. "Not the fact that you banished me to my car? Not Nathan saying I'm not worth a seat?" The words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. Sophie looked down, twisting her napkin. Claire's hand brushed the pearl necklace she'd stolen from me, her eyes darting away. My mother, Linda, tried to intervene, her voice strained. Can this wait until after we eat? No, I said, firm and final. It can't. Nathan lifted his plate, revealing the cream-colored envelope I'd slipped beneath it hours earlier. The room seemed to hold its breath as he opened it, pulling out a stack of papers. His face, always so composed, shifted, shock, then anger, then something close to fear. He scanned the first page, his fingers tightening on the edges. What is this? He demanded, his voice low, dangerous. The truth, I said simply. Something this family's never cared for when it comes from me. I stepped closer, my voice steady, each word deliberate. Screenshots of texts where you brag about turning mom and dad against me. Emails where you lie to aunts and uncles, painting me as unstable. A recording from last Thanksgiving, Nathan, where you laugh about how easy it is to make them hate me. The table erupted into murmurs, glances darting between Nathan and me. His wife, Olivia, leaned forward, her brow furrowed. Let me see that, she said, reaching for the envelope. Nathan yanked it back, his voice rising. It's nothing. Emily's making it up, like always. I raised an eyebrow, unflinching. Am I? Then show them. If I'm lying, prove it. His jaw clenched, his knuckles white around the papers. He was trapped, and he knew it. Olivia's eyes narrowed, sensing his panic. She snatched the envelope from his grip, pulling out a single sheet. Her face hardened as she read aloud, her voice shaking with fury. A text to someone named Jessica, dinner's going great. Made sure Emily's out of the picture again. Too easy. Gasps rippled around the table. Sophie's hand flew to her mouth. My father's fork clattered against his plate. Olivia kept reading, her voice growing colder. Another one, told Mom Emily's in therapy for her issues. Keeps her in check. She looked at Nathan, betrayal burning in her eyes. Who's Jessica, Nathan? The question hung like a guillotine. Nathan stammered, his charm crumbling. It's not what you think, but Olivia wasn't done. She flipped to another page, her voice trembling now. And this, met someone at the conference. Can't wait to see you again. You've been cheating? The room spun into chaos. Nathan stood, his chair scraping loudly. This is ridiculous, he shouted, but his voice cracked. I turned to Claire, who sat frozen, her hand on the necklace. There's more, I said, my gaze locking with hers. A copy of Grandma Evelyn's will, the one Nathan hid. It names me as the heir to her pearl necklace, Claire. Not you. He told you I didn't want it, didn't he? Convinced you she'd changed her mind? Claire's face crumpled, her fingers trembling as she touched the pearls. Is that true? She whispered, turning to Nathan. He didn't answer, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. Claire's voice broke. You lied to me? In a sudden motion, she ripped the necklace off, the clasp snapping, and threw it across the table toward me. Take it! She cried, tears streaming. The pearls landed near my feet, a small, glittering victory. The dining room was a storm of voices now, accusations, denials, questions no one could answer. My mother tried to restore order, her voice shrill. Emily, this is Christmas. You've ruined everything. I shook my head, a strange calm settling over me. No, Mom. You did that when you decided I wasn't worth a seat. I looked at Nathan, still gripping the envelope, his face a mask of rage and desperation. Check under your plate again, I said. He hesitated, then lifted it, revealing a handwritten note I'd placed there. His eyes scanned it, his expression darkening. I didn't wait for him to speak. I recited the words I'd written, each one a release. This is the last time I'll try to make you see me. The last time I'll fight for a place in this family. I release you from pretending to care about me, and I release myself from seeking your approval. The silence that followed was heavy, profound. My father stared at his plate, unable to meet my eyes. Sophie bit her lip, tears welling. Olivia clutched the papers, her face a mix of shock and resolve. Claire sobbed quietly, the necklace forgotten. My aunt and uncle exchanged uneasy glances, their silence complicit. I took a step back, surveying the scene, the perfect table, the family gathered without me, the truth finally laid bare. I'd spent decades chasing their love, molding myself to fit their expectations, believing if I'd tried harder, I'd earn a place. But standing there, I saw it clearly, there'd never been room for me. Not because I wasn't enough, but because they chose not to make it. "Merry Christmas," I said, my voice soft but steady. "Enjoy your dinner." I turned, walking through the living room, past the tree where my other gifts sat unopened. I grabbed my coat and purse, the weight of the evening settling into something new, not pain, but freedom. No one followed me. No one called my name. As I opened the front door, I heard raised voices from the dining room, Nathan's defensiveness, Olivia's accusations, my mother's pleas for calm. It was their chaos now, not mine. The winter air hit my face, crisp and clean, snow falling in soft flakes. I walked to my car, the house's lights fading behind me, and for the first time in years, I felt light, unburdened. I slid into the driver's seat, the cold leather grounding me. The pie sat untouched on the passenger seat, a reminder of the hope I'd brought. I started the engine, the hum steadying my pulse. Snowflakes swirled in the glow of my headlights, each one a tiny promise of something new. I wasn't running away. I was choosing myself, choosing a life where I didn't have to beg for love. As I pulled onto the road, the Chicago skyline loomed in the distance, its lights bright against the night. I was heading toward a future I'd build on my terms, but first, I needed a place to breathe, to process what I'd just done. This wasn't the end of the story. What I'd left on that table, those papers, that note, had set something in motion. Nathan's lies were exposed, but the fallout was just beginning. My family would have to face themselves, and I'd have to face what came next. Would they chase me, demand apologies, or let me go? I didn't know yet. But as I drove through the snow, one thing was certain, I'd never again let them define my worth. The road ahead was mine, and I was ready to take it. I drove away from my parents' house, the snow falling thicker now, blanketing Naperville in a quiet that felt like absolution. The Christmas lights faded in my rearview mirror, and with them, the weight of a lifetime spent begging for a place at a table that never had room for me. I'd left behind an envelope under Nathan's plate, proof of his lies, his manipulation, his betrayal. I'd walked out of that dining room, not as the broken middle child, but as Emily Carter, 35, an architect who'd finally built a wall between myself and a family that didn't deserve me. The truth was out, but what would it cost? What would it change? As I merged onto the highway, Chicago's skyline glowing in the distance, I knew the fallout was just beginning, and I'd have to face whatever came next. I checked into the Grandview Hotel, a sleek refuge open on Christmas night, its lobby warm with twinkling lights and soft carols. The receptionist, a woman named Sarah, handed me a keycard with a kind smile. "Just you tonight?" she asked, her eyes gentle, as if she sensed the story behind my solitary arrival. I nodded, my green dress feeling out of place without luggage or cheer. "Change of plans," I said, and she didn't pry. In my room, I kicked off my heels, the city's pulse visible through the window, and let the evening's events settle. The hurt was still there, a dull ache, but something else bloomed alongside it, relief, sharp and clear, like the first breath after holding it too long. My phone buzzed almost immediately, a storm of notifications breaking the silence. Sophie texted first, her words frantic. "What was in that envelope?" "Nathan's losing it." "Are you okay?" I didn't reply, not yet. My mother's call came next, her voicemail a mix of anger and denial. "Emily, this is unacceptable. You've ruined Christmas and upset everyone. Call me back so we can discuss your apology to Nathan." I deleted it, my thumb steady. My father's text was simpler, "Your mother's upset. Please call." I turned off my phone, ordered room service, turkey, mashed potatoes, a slice of pumpkin pie, and ate by the window, watching snow dust Lincoln Park below. The solitude wasn't lonely, it was peace, a moment to exist without bracing for the next blow. When I turned my phone back on, the messages had multiplied, missed calls, texts, a family unraveling. One stood out, Claire, my cousin, who'd worn my grandmother's pearl necklace for years. "Can we talk?" "Not about the necklace, about Nathan." I hesitated, then replied, "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Brood Awakening Cafe." The next morning, I arrived early, journaling in my hotel room to anchor myself, a habit my therapist, Dr. Ellis, had taught me. Writing about the dinner, Nathan's smirk, my decision to leave, it solidified my resolve. This wasn't a rash choice, it was survival. Claire was already at the cafe, fidgeting with a napkin, the necklace absent from her neck. She looked up, her face a mix of guilt and nerves. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice small. I sat across from her, calm but guarded. "Why are we here?" I asked. She took a shaky breath. "After you left, everything fell apart. Nathan tried to burn the papers, but Olivia grabbed them." She read them aloud, texts where he admitted to pitting us against each other. Her eyes met mine, raw with realization. "He told me you mocked my job at Beth's wedding, said you called my art a hobby. Was that true?" I shook my head. "No. That was Nathan." Her voice cracked. "And he said you were too unstable for Grandma Evelyn's necklace, that you didn't want it." I believed him. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "He lied, Claire. He intercepted Evelyn's will, told you she'd changed her mind. He played us all." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I've always admired you, Emily, your buildings, your strength. I told people my cousin's an architect who's changing the world. But Nathan made me think you hated me." We talked for 2 hours, untangling years of his poison. She revealed the dinner's aftermath. Olivia confronted Nathan about texts to another woman, not just Jessica, but others. The table dissolved into arguments, Nathan storming out, Olivia leaving in her own car. Claire's voice softened. "Your dad stood up to your mom. He said they'd enabled Nathan too long. I've never seen him like that." Before we parted, Claire slid a small box across the table. I opened it to find Grandma Evelyn's pearl necklace, its delicate clasp glinting. "It was always yours," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry it took so long." I didn't put it on, not yet, but holding it felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The rest of the week brought a flood of messages, each one a window into the family's fracture. My mother's text cycled from demands to desperation. "We can move past this if you talk to Nathan," she wrote. "Families fight, but we stick together. You're overreacting to a seething misunderstanding." I didn't respond. Her words were a script I'd heard too many times: minimize, deflect, protect Nathan at all costs. My father's approach surprised me. His early messages echoed Mom's, urging me to call her, but by the third day, his tone shifted. "I've been thinking about Christmas," he wrote. I didn't handle it well. I should have spoken up. It wasn't enough, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall he'd built around Nathan's lies. Sophie called on New Year's Eve, her voice tentative. "Nathan and Olivia are divorcing," she said. She found more messages on his phone. "It's a mess." I sighed, not out of joy, but sadness for the pain rippling through their lives. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. Olivia had been distant, but never cruel. "Are you?" Sophie asked, surprised. "After everything he did?" "His marriage falling apart doesn't fix what he broke," I replied. "It's just more hurt." Sophie paused, then spoke softly. "I should have said something at dinner. When Mom told you to eat in the car, I knew it was wrong, but I stayed quiet." Her admission hung between us, heavy with regret. "You did," I said, not softening the truth. "Can we meet?" she asked. I want to be a better sister. I agreed to consider it, leaving the door open but not wide. Another surprise came from my Aunt Margaret, a staunch ally of my mother's. A handwritten card arrived a week later. "Christmas made me see how we've failed you," she wrote. "I've let Nathan control the narrative. I'd like to know the niece I've overlooked, if you'll let me." Her words stirred something, hope, cautious but real. Not everyone reached out. My mother's messages dwindled when I didn't bend. Several aunts and uncles stayed silent, likely siding with her or dodging the drama. Nathan never contacted me, but Sophie shared that he was spinning tales, calling me unstable while downplaying his lies as exaggerations. I expected nothing less. 2 weeks later, in a session with Dr. Ellis, I laid out the aftermath, the envelope, the arguments, the tentative apologies. "How do you feel now?" she asked. I thought for a moment, the answer crystallizing. "Sad," I said. "But not regretful. It's like grieving a family I never truly had." She nodded, her voice gentle. "And moving forward? What relationships do you want?" I exhaled, the question heavy but clear. "With Sophie and Dad, maybe there's a path, with boundaries. With Mom and Nathan, I don't know if anything healthy's possible." Over the next month, I began setting those boundaries. I agreed to meet Sophie for coffee, but only if she respected my need for space from Mom and Nathan. She showed up, nervous but earnest, and shared something I hadn't expected. "Nathan controlled me too," she said, stirring her latte. "Not like you, but he'd guilt me into siding with him, saying it kept the family together. I didn't see it until now." Her honesty cracked something open, a fragile bridge we could rebuild. My father sent a letter, not a text, his handwriting shaky. "I'm starting therapy," he wrote. "I've been wrong about Nathan, about you. I want to change." I wasn't ready to meet him, but I kept the letter, a seed of possibility. Claire and I started texting, small steps toward trust. She apologized again for the necklace, admitting Nathan had fed her doubts about me for years. "I should have questioned him," she said. "I was too caught up in being the favorite cousin." I forgave her, not fully, but enough to move forward. My mother remained the hardest. Her calls grew rare, each one a plea to fix the family by pretending nothing had happened. I declined her invitations to gatherings, my silence a shield. She saw it as punishment, I saw it as protection. The line between us felt permanent, at least for now. As January faded into February, I felt the ground beneath me shift. The constant anxiety of family events, the dread of Nathan's next jab, it was fading. In its place was a quiet strength, a certainty that I could choose who belonged in my life. I'd exposed Nathan's lies, but more than that, I'd exposed the truth about myself. I was enough, with or without their approval. The story didn't end with that Christmas dinner. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I'd build a life on my terms, surrounded by people who saw me, valued me, and made space for me at their table. I stood on the balcony of my Chicago apartment, the spring breeze carrying the scent of cherry blossoms from Lincoln Park below. 6 months had passed since that Christmas dinner, since I'd walked away from a family that never made room for me. I'd left behind an envelope of truth under Nathan's plate, exposing his lies, his manipulation, his cruelty. That night, I'd chosen myself, driving away from Naperville's twinkling lights into a future I'd define. Now, as the city hummed beneath me, I felt a quiet strength, a certainty that I was enough. This wasn't just about surviving a toxic family, it was about thriving, building a life where my voice mattered, where I belonged. The journey wasn't easy, but it was mine, and every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of the woman I'd always been meant to be. My apartment was no longer a safe, muted space designed to avoid my family's criticism. I'd painted the walls a bold teal, hung vibrant artwork that spoke to my soul, and filled every corner with thriving plants. This was my sanctuary now, a reflection of the Emily who'd stopped apologizing for existing. I'd redecorated my life, too, surrounding myself with people who saw me, valued me, not because of what I achieved, but because of who I was. My colleague Kimberly had become a close friend, her Thursday night dinners with her husband Marcus a ritual of laughter and lasagna. They were my chosen family, proof that love didn't have to be earned with perfection or sacrifice. At work, I was no longer the quiet architect holding back to avoid seeming too proud. I'd taken the lead on a sustainable housing project, pitching ideas with a confidence that surprised even me. In meetings, my voice carried, uninterrupted by the echoes of Nathan's dismissals. My boss noticed, pulling me aside after a presentation. "Emily, your brilliance isn't quiet anymore," he said, smiling. "You're owning it." I was. Last month, I spoke at an architecture conference, standing before a packed room, sharing my vision for eco-friendly urban design. When the audience erupted in applause, I didn't look for my family's approval in the crowd. I didn't need it. Their absence no longer defined me. My personal life was blooming, too. I'd started dating David, an environmental engineer I'd met through work. He was kind, grounded, the kind of man who listened when I spoke and respected the boundaries I'd fought so hard to set. Over coffee one evening, I shared my story, the Christmas dinner, Nathan's betrayal, the years of feeling invisible. David reached for my hand, his eyes steady. "You're not invisible to me," he said, and I believed him. Our relationship was new, but it was built on mutual respect, a foundation I'd never known with my family. For the first time, I wasn't afraid to be seen, flaws and all. Therapy with Dr. Ellis remained my anchor. We'd moved to bi-weekly sessions, a sign of the strength I'd cultivated. She'd helped me silence the inner critic that sounded like Nathan, taught me to set boundaries without guilt, to value myself even when others didn't. In our last session, she'd smiled, her voice warm. "You've learned the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation, Emily. That's powerful." I had. Forgiving my family meant releasing the anger that weighed me down, but it didn't mean inviting them back to hurt me. I could wish them well from a distance, protecting the peace I'd built. The family I'd left behind had shifted in ways I hadn't expected. Nathan's world unraveled after Christmas. His divorce from Olivia was finalized, and he'd moved to Boston, chasing a fresh start. Sophie told me he was still spinning narratives, painting me as the villain, but without his constant presence, the family dynamic was changing. My father, James, and I started meeting for lunch every other week. Our first meals were awkward, heavy with unspoken history, but he was trying. At our third lunch, he set down his fork, his voice rough. "I failed you, Emily," he said. "I let Nathan dictate everything because it was easier than fighting. I was a coward." I squeezed his hand, my eyes damp. "Thank you for saying that." We weren't healed, but we were building something honest, step by careful step. Sophie and I were finding our way, too. She'd started therapy, grappling with her role as the family's baby, both privileged and confined. Over a weekend hike, she opened up, her voice soft. I thought being the favorite was a gift, but it boxed me in. Nathan used that to keep me quiet. Her honesty bridged the gap between us, turning us into sisters in a way we'd never been. Claire, my cousin, became an unexpected ally. After returning Grandma Evelyn's pearl necklace, she'd worked to rebuild our trust. We bonded over genealogy, documenting Evelyn's stories to preserve her legacy. One evening, she placed Evelyn's photo on her mantle, smiling at me. This is who she was, not Nathan's version. I nodded, the necklace warm against my skin, worn only on days that felt significant. My mother, Linda, remained the hardest. After Christmas, her calls were a cycle of guilt trips and half apologies. "I'm sorry if you felt hurt," she'd say, as if my pain was a misunderstanding. When I didn't relent, she grew angry, then silent. We'd spoken twice since, brief calls that avoided the truth. I declined her invitations to family events, my boundaries firm. She saw it as betrayal, I saw it as self-preservation. Some days, I doubted myself, old habits whispering that family forgives everything. But I'd reread my journal from Christmas night, reliving the moment I was told to eat in my car, and my resolve hardened. I wasn't punishing her, I was protecting me. The holidays loomed again, bringing new choices. For the 4th of July, I hosted a barbecue at my apartment, the teal walls vibrant with life. Sophie came, laughing with my friends. James brought his famous potato salad, his smile tentative but warm. Claire arrived with a playlist, her ease a far cry from the cousin who'd once worn my necklace. My mother wasn't invited, her texts about family loyalty unanswered. It hurt, but I held firm. This was my table, my rules, built on respect, not obligation. The laughter that filled my home that night, the clink of glasses, the warmth of chosen family, it was everything I'd once sought from my parents' dining room. That internal shift was the deepest change. The anxiety that once gripped me before family gatherings, the dread of Nathan's barbs, had faded. In its place was confidence, a trust in my ability to choose who deserved my time. I wore Evelyn's necklace on days that mattered, its weight a reminder of the woman who'd believed in me, and of the woman I'd become. One evening, as the Chicago sunset painted the sky in pinks and golds, I wrote in my journal, my pen steady. Family isn't blood, it's action. It's respect, kindness, a seat offered without conditions. I built my own table, surrounded by people who see me. And that's enough. This journey taught me lessons I want to share with you. First, set boundaries, even with family. You don't owe anyone your peace, and saying no isn't selfish, it's survival. Second, love yourself fiercely. Your worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval, not even those who share your blood. Build a life that makes you proud, brick by brick. Third, find your chosen family. There are people out there who'll love you for you, who'll make space without asking you to shrink. Open your heart to them, and don't settle for less. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? What's your chosen family look like? Drop your stories in the comments, I read every one. If this resonated, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories about finding your strength. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's fighting for their own seat at the table. Thank you for being here, for listening to my story. Remember, the most important table is the one where you're valued, exactly as you are.